Newcomers to Canada, listen carefully. There's a lot of information out there about moving to Canada, but let's be real, not all of it is true. Some of these myths can actually make your life harder. In today's video, I'm exposing some of the biggest online lies about moving to Canada. So stick around until the end. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Francine and my family of 7 has recently relocated to Canada. So I've been making videos about relocation, family and living here. Subscribe to the channel for more. Okay, so let's get into it. So myth number 1 is that you have to wait for at least 1 year to buy a house in Canada. So a lot of videos, a lot of online information suggests that you have to wait for at least 1 year after arriving in Canada to buy a house, and that's because you have to build your credit history. Sounds like a rule, right? But that's not entirely true. When we first moved, we also planned to rent for at least 1 year based on this advice. But securing a rental property turned out to be much harder than expected. Although we worked with one of the best real estate agents, shout out to you Fayez if you're watching this video. We worked with them for 2 months, both while still in the US and after arriving in Canada. But it was much challenging to secure a rental property. And at the end, our real estate agent told us that actually buying here can be easier than renting, and that completely changed our mind. So he explained that whether you are renting or buying, in both cases, you still need a proof of employment, a good credit score, and a down payment or a deposit. Of course, with the mortgage is a much bigger financial commitment, and that will involve a much higher deposit or down payment. But the thing with the renting is that the landlord or landlady has the final say. It means that you can provide all the required documents, you can even offer to pay several months in advance, but they still say no. And I still remember in some cases I had to write letters of motivation as if I was applying for a job, explaining why I am moving to Canada, what am I going to do, what I do in my life, who am I coming with, and only to be rejected at the end. So is it impossible to buy a house as soon as you arrive in Canada? Maybe not. Is it easy though? Not necessarily. The point that I'm trying to make here is that this is not out of reach. Actually, there are some banks that do offer some newcomers mortgage programs, and depending on their eligibility criteria, you might qualify sooner than expected. However, not all banks define newcomer the same way. For some, a newcomer can be anybody who has been living in Canada for up to 5 years, but not necessarily somebody who just came here and been living here for a few weeks or months. Instead, in this program, do your research, and before choosing a financial institution to bank with, ask them what's included in their newcomer program. So myth number 2 is the use of mailbox for your PR card. I watched a lot of videos suggesting that you can use a mailbox if you don't have a long-term accommodation, but that is not true. Your PR card can only be mailed to a physical address, and that can be your home, that can be a friend's place, or even in our case, an Airbnb. So at first, I believed the advice, and I even walked to a UPS store back in the US, asking them how I can rent a mailbox in Canada. But since UPS stores are independently owned, they told me I need to contact locations in Canada directly. So I went to the official website, pick a few locations, and start making calls. Most places required a minimum of 6-month rental fee, but I eventually found one that allowed a 4-month payment. So I submitted all the required documents, signed the paperwork, made the payment, only to never use it. So when we arrived at the airport, the officer asked for the address to mail the PR card. I proudly gave my UPS mailbox. He looked at it, he was like, nope, I need a physical address. So I tried to explain that we just got here, we don't have a long-term accommodation, we're going to stay in an Airbnb for a while. I was like, yes, that's okay. Just give me your Airbnb address, and if you move, you can still update your information. So that's what I did, and thankfully, we received our PR card while still at the Airbnb. So don't stress and don't waste money on UPS mailbox. unless you want to use it for other purposes. So myth number 3 is about the prepaid credit card. So a lot of information suggests that you need to put money down up front to get a regular credit card. This might be the case in some provinces, but there are nuances. In Ontario, for example, where you're living, we didn't need to put any money down up front to get a credit card. We simply applied, got approved, and it arrived in a mail. No deposit was needed. So for some of you who are not familiar with credit card, this is very essential. It helps you build your financial history, which makes it easier to qualify for loans, rent an apartment, and even get a mortgage down the road. So before rushing for a prepaid credit card, and if you don't have the money to do that, check with different banks. You might be able to start building your credit history right away. Here is a myth that can actually cost you money. Some people claim that you have to wait for at least 1 year to claim child benefit after filing your first tax return in Canada. But that's not true. You can apply for child benefit as soon as you become eligible. In some cases, the Canada Revenue Agency can request additional documents, but there's no need to wait for a full year, especially as you can use your previous year's tax filing details from your home country or from the country of residence. And don't stress about the processing time, because no matter how long it takes, as soon as you become eligible, the benefits will be backdated. So let's say that you arrived in Canada in January and it took you 2 months to settle, and in March finally you are able to apply for child benefit. Then the application takes 2 months to process. So if, for example, your application is approved in May, the benefit will be backdated to January if in January you were already eligible to receive the benefit. But don't leave money on the table. Finally, let's talk about the Amazon delivery myth. Some people claim that Amazon delivery in Canada takes forever, but it really depends on where you live in. If you live in major cities like in Toronto or in Montreal, you can get same day or next day delivery. But if you live in smaller towns or remote areas, there it can take a little longer. But it's not as bad as people make it seem. From my own experience, I've ordered items on Amazon and got them delivered within a few days, and I didn't have to pay for Amazon Prime. So while delivery times vary, but it's nowhere near as bad as people make it sound. So there you have it, some of the biggest online lies about moving to Canada. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like, comment, and let me know in the comments below which myth surprised you the most. Until next time, stay calm, stay kind, and remember, don't believe everything you see online. Thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you in my next one. Bye.